You see, there's this rather persistent misunderstanding that one ought to get rid of the ego. Well, you can't unless, of course, you also get rid of the body, in which case you'll be rather beyond the point of worrying about it. The ego is not some foreign intruder. It's simply the part you play while you are here. It's rather like an actor on a stage. You put on a costume, you learn the lines, and for a while you forget you're acting. That's the charm of it. If you were to tear off the costume in the middle of the play, there would be no character left, only an awkward silence. The ego, the personality, is that costume. It gives you a certain shape, a way of speaking and moving in the world, but it's not meant to run the show. It's there so that life can appear with a certain clarity, a certain focus, just as a pair of spectacles helps you see the scenery more sharply, but does not tell you where to walk. And so, to live is to remember. You may keep the role, but you needn't be trapped by it. You are the actor, not the mask. The play goes where it must, and you are simply here to see it through. But our problem is we don't really know how to stop. We've got something started, and we see it's going in the wrong direction. And I think the difficulty is, to borrow an old Chinese saying, that when the wrong man uses the right means work in the wrong way. In other words, there is something wrong with the way we think. And while that is there, everything we do will be a mess. Now, what is it? What's wrong? We imagine that if we just had the right method, the right technique, the right philosophy, we could straighten everything out. But the trouble isn't in the tools. The trouble is in the one using them. As far as I can see, the basic mistake is that we've invented this marvelous system of language and calculation, and it's at once too simple to handle the complexity of the world, and dangerously easy to confuse with the world itself. It's just as we confuse money with wealth. A great many people are in business to make money rather than wealth, and when they've made the money, they don't quite know what to do with it. In exactly the same way, we confuse happiness with status. And worst of all, we confuse ourselves, living organisms, one with the whole universe, with something we call our personality. And what is our personality? Merely our image of ourselves, our idea of who we are. That image leaves out every unconscious process in us, both psychological and physical. It leaves out the construction of our brain, the chemistry of our blood, and the inseparable relationship we have with the rest of existence. So when that image is mistaken for the real me, there is a confusion from the very start. You can see this confusion at work when someone says, "Do something about it, Alan Watts." The concept Alan Watts can't lift a weight or wrap up a parcel. It's only an idea, just as the number 3 can't pick up a stone and the equator can't tie a knot. But we still feel as if this concept of ourselves can act as if it really exists. Why? Because from childhood we were told, pay attention. And what did we do? We tightened the muscles around our eyes, furrowed our brows, clenched our jaws, and that has nothing whatsoever to do with seeing more clearly. We did the same with listening. When someone says, "Listen carefully," we tightened around the ears, as though that would help us hear better. Over the years, this unnecessary tension became a constant background in the body, a physical feeling we mistook for the presence of a separate me. The concept of self was fastened to this sensation, and together they formed what we call our ego, a marriage of an illusion with a false signal. And here's where it gets interesting. People will say, but letting go of the ego, that's the hardest thing in the world. Actually, it isn't, because you know the biggest ego trip going is getting rid of your ego. Your ego doesn't exist. There's nothing to get rid of. It's an illusion. The trouble comes when you try to give up the ego with the ego. That's like asking your own shadow to disappear by chasing it. You will be at it forever. You can't make yourself sane. You can't will yourself to be unselfish or loving. And yet, paradox of paradoxes, it's absolutely necessary that we live that way. If we're to turn the direction of nature back over to nature itself, but you can't do it through effort, through acting spiritual, through willpower, or even through the pious-sounding idea of accepting. Why? Because the separate self you think would do all this, the driver in the seat, is only an idea glued onto a false bodily signal. So the shocking truth is, you can't transform yourself. And the good news is that you don't need to. So what happens when you really see this? That you've come to a dead end? And I think, in many ways, the human race has reached that dead end. What happens when you simply wait? You find there's nothing you can do. You just watch. And all around you, life is happening by itself. You are breathing. The wind is moving through the trees. Your blood is circulating. Your nerves are tingling. Clouds are drifting across the sky. And all of it is going on without you having to shove it along. That's you, the real you, the you that happens of itself. Yes, you can pretend to be breathing by pushing the breath around, but day and night, asleep or awake, it goes on without your interference. Your brain is functioning without your forcing it. Your eyes are seeing without you knowing how to work the rods and cones in the retina. When we stop pushing, we discover a world that is not being done, but is simply happening. And that happening is what we really are. But you still want to ask how to stop the illusion. Now, who's asking? Me? Do you think in the ordinary sense in which you use the word I? How can I identify myself with the wrong me? Well, the answer is simply you can't. The Christians have a perfectly good way of putting it when they say that mystical experience is a gift of divine grace. Man, as such, cannot achieve it. If God doesn't give it to you, there's no way of getting it. And that's solidly true. But far from being depressing, this is the good news. Because if you cannot transform yourself, then the main obstacle to transformation, which was you, has already vanished. The trouble is, when you try to give up your ego with your ego, you get caught in a loop. Every method, every technique is a gimmick for strengthening the very thing you're trying to be rid of. Krishnamurti would put it plainly. When you ask for a method, you're still asking from the wrong place. All methods are traps because they begin with the assumption that there is a you who needs fixing. The Zen people have a marvelous way of saying it. You cannot catch hold of it, nor can you get rid of it. In not being able to get it, you get it. So what happens if you just watch? You notice that your breathing happens, your thoughts happen, your feelings happen without any controller at the helm. And the moment you see that, the whole notion of a separate doer collapses. You don't achieve freedom. You simply notice there was never anyone to be bound in the first place. You can't control your thoughts. You can't control your feelings because there is no controller. What you take to be the thinker of thoughts is simply one of the thoughts. What you imagine to be the feeler of feelings is itself just another feeling and the experiencer of experience. is simply part of the experience. It's a curious trick of grammar that gets us into trouble. In English and in many languages, verbs must have subjects. So if there is knowing, we think there must be a knower. If there is doing, there must be a doer. That's not the rule of nature. It's only the rule of speech. In reality, there is just knowing, just doing, just happening. And yet we keep imagining there is this ghost inside the machine, this driver in the seat, who makes it all go. But you don't make your heart beat. You don't grow your own hair. You don't manage the chemical balance of your blood. All of it goes on without your pushing it. And when that illusion fades, you find yourself in quite a different position. You are no longer a little man or woman, locked up inside a bag of skin, peering out at a foreign world. Your real self is not inside you in the way you think. It is everything you are connected with: the air, the sunlight, the mountains, the people, the whole show. When you look out of your eyes, at the trees swaying in the wind, at clouds drifting across the sky, you are not looking at the world. You are looking at yourself. Not the self of bank accounts and driver's licenses, but the self that happens all by itself, as naturally as a flower opens or a star shines. And from here, there's nothing to improve. No conversion to be made, no ego to drop, no method to follow. Because the one who thought all that was necessary has been unmasked as a phantom. So the point is not to become something different, but to notice what has been going on all along. The effortless happening of life, which is what you truly are.